Hi, my name is Janet Taku, and I'm originally from Cameroon. I work with New Communities Partnership Cork as the program coordinator. So I'm here today just to talk about what we do at NCP. We have three main projects that we run at NCP. We run the Migrant Family Support Project. We run the CAS project, which is a citizenship application support service. We also support groups from different migrant backgrounds. So sometimes if there's court case, we accompany these migrants to court because most of these migrants, they feel that they are in a disadvantaged position and so they need our support. And most of the cases we have, maybe from self-referrals or from social services, most of these migrants will tell us that when they came to Ireland, they never knew about the child protection legislature. So sometimes we go through this child protection legislature with them, protection policies. So just to make sure those migrants are aware of some of the laws pertaining child protection services in Ireland, and also we make them to be aware that since they're coming from different cultural backgrounds, we know it's difficult for them to adapt to the Irish culture. So we go across those legislatures with them just for them to be aware that they are in Ireland and there are different rules when it comes to looking after children in Ireland. So yeah, the only advice I would like to, or the only information I want the social workers to be aware of is just that we should be aware that families are coming from different cultural backgrounds where they were brought up in another way. Like, for example, let me say, raising a child up in Africa, for example, the child is not expected to look at the parents straight in the eyes, whereas here in Ireland, when the children go to school, they teach them that when you're talking to an adult, you have to look at the adult straight in the eyes. So if this children goes back home, there's conflict between the parents and these children. So I would just say the social workers should be aware when they are working with families that these families are coming from different backgrounds. So there's bound to be a clash of culture when it comes to raising children in Ireland.
Hi, my name is Darcy Fay and I'm a student at the Life Centre. I had difficulties attending mainstream school. Although getting letters concerning my absences, I never got one follow-up like many others. Anyone who leaves education needs a follow-up, not just under 16s, but anyone that leaves the education system to be able to get a follow-up to determine if they need extra support or help finding an alternative school. Because no child leaves education for no reason. One of the main factors a child leaves education is due to bullying. From day one, a child needs to be taught to respect and learn interpersonal skills. The Department of Education threatens to bring parents to court when in fact they are responsible for the child in the schooling system. They fail to protect the system and leave kids damaged in the end. The schooling system is failing the children. Another thing I'd like to talk about is the housing crisis with homelessness, refugees and asylum seekers. This problem is affecting children. Every child should have a home, a chance at a happy, stable life with their families, further education after secondary school. A child is a child at the end of the day. They need support and all the help they can get. They need normality in their life. I really think this needs to be the main focus in Ireland at the moment.
My name's Cormac McCarthy. I have a history in care myself. Some of the points that I feel would be more prevalent to be brought up to TUSLA would be possibly to involve a young person more in their care plan rather than feeling that they're being patronised or talked down to, that they as an individual have their own control in what happens in their life. I think a really practical idea would be to have free phones to any social work department so that a young person can contact them from any source like mobile, landline, whatever it is, whatever is available to them that they can contact a social work department rather than, having to go somewhere and have an extra stipulation when they're trying to contact their social worker or whoever it may be. I think putting an emphasis on a young person's education rather than just keeping them out of trouble is a huge part of what should be changed within TUSLA and certain meetings about care plans, etc. Because I feel personally in my own experience that there was more of an emphasis on keeping me out of trouble than actually helping me achieve my goals or helping me, kind of just achieve, essentially. It's more about just sustaining you and pushing you through the system, I feel, rather than actually helping you achieve things. I feel there should be an all-around reconstruction on aftercare, because there's so many young people now who have come from a care system who are not entitled to it because policies have changed, and over time it's become more complicated for a young person to be entitled to an aftercare system or to even be entitled to housing because of what's going on in Irish society alone, with the amount of privatisation and landlords, etc. I think a large majority of social workers' caseloads are far too high, and they never get to build an individual rapport with the person they're working with, which I feel at times, for me anyway, personally, it caused a huge amount of conflict and kind of, there was a large, mistrust between the two of us. I couldn't trust them, they couldn't trust me, because there wasn't that, individual relationship that you would usually imagine you'd be able to build with a social worker over a year, because they're constantly changing and, rules are changing, people are changing, their jobs are moving forward. In my own personal experience as well of managing a case or moving forward in my care plan, I found that a lot of individuals in power there can be very condescending to a young person, especially if they didn't have the vocabulary, let's say, that I have, because I found a lot of people don't, a lot of individuals don't, they don't have the words, and that in turn just leads them to becoming more frustrated and acting out, which is something that should be completely avoided.
Hi, my name is Nicole Noonan. I am a social care worker. I qualified last year with my honours degree in Carlow College. I'm currently doing my Masters in Children, Youth and Family Studies, but I didn't always think this was going to be possible. I first entered care at the age of 8. Looking back across my history in care, there was many positive outcomes. I always felt loved, I always felt supported, and the social workers tried their very, very best to make my life as happy as possible. But at the same time, I do have a few recommendations that I think might have made my history easier and could possibly help people in the future. When I was first taken into care, I was with my grandparents, but I really didn't realise I was actually in foster care. I thought I was just living with my grandparents. We went to a meeting, and at this meeting, my social worker used the word foster parents. I didn't know what this meant, what the implications were. I didn't realise that it meant I couldn't go back to my dad. Once I found out what it meant, I was extremely anxious and upset. But the social worker took the time to explain it to me. I believe anyone that has been put in this position, that the social workers needs to clearly set out and clearly tell them that this is what foster care is. Whether that means bringing in a book to explain it to younger children, or maybe a fun cartoon video or something that really shows the person what that actually means. The second thing that I noticed is that I was always very, very conscious about being in foster care, because I was labelled as troubled. Even though it wasn't my fault I was in foster care. But half the way that it's emphasised in media and everything is that people in foster care are troubled, they have issues, and this isn't always the case. In some cases it is, but in my case it wasn't. I just needed somewhere to stay, a family to love me, because unfortunately my own parent couldn't do it at that time because he was ill. So I think really that the media needs to look differently on how they're portraying foster care, how they're portraying kids in care, and review that. Thirdly, the other recommendation I would have is that foster parents themselves need to be more familiar with the surroundings that children are being put in. So I hope them recommendations will be taken on board, and that my story encourages anyone that is in foster care to know that there can be a positive outcome. Resilience is something that I had a lot of, but also I got a lot of support, and if you reach out for that support, it will be given to you. Thanks.
My name is Rachel and I work with the Cork Life Centre. So there I work with brilliant young people who find themselves outside the mainstream school system for a whole variety of reasons. As well as needing support with their education, that they have not found in school, many of these young people are also involved with TUSLA and other agencies. What I found to be true of all the young people I work with is that while they are vulnerable, they are also extremely powerful and resilient. What these young people need most from us is to stop defining them as deviant or problematic, and also to stop defining them by the services and programmes they access. Rather than conceptualising children and young people as at risk, we need to start looking at them as being at promise. This is not to say the young people do not need support, but often they are best supported by belonging to a community, being needed and being able to contribute. In order for this to happen, we need to build our communities, whether they be at school, home, or professional communities, around our young people. If, as the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child, maybe what we have is a village problem rather than a young person problem. The further away a child is from the centre of a caring community, the more at risk they in fact become. Children and young people, even those who enter state care, like all of us, need to have a real home and a real community to belong to. What I see too often in working with young people is that the systems that are supposed to be built around them don't always have a lot of room or space for young people in them. Young people can feel they're on the outside. Often they don't feel listened to and heard. They don't feel part of the decisions that affect them, or clear on why these decisions are being made. In terms of our care and welfare system, we need to move from a system where social workers have to prioritise managing risk to having the time to manage the relationships that they have with children and young people. Unfortunately, at present, caseload is just too high for social workers to allow this to happen. What young people need from TUSLA, from social workers, and indeed from all the services they access is good adults that understand them and are available to them. It is these relationships built on trust that allow positive change to happen. Young people are willing and capable to tell us what they need, but we have to have the time and space to listen to them. We were very proud during the last year to have our young people involved in putting together a Children and Young People's Charter with TUSLA. These documents are great examples of good practice, and it's these messages that represent the voices of children and young people and what they need. I hope the Charter will be given the weight it deserves at today's conference and indeed every day.